Hello, I'm Anna Kalczyńska and welcome to World Talks. Europe is now officially the fastest warming continent, and nowhere it is more evident than in the Central and Eastern Europe. The 2024 European State of the Climate report paints a stark picture. Extreme heat, prolonged drought and catastrophic flooding have left communities reeling Eastern Europe in particular. This region has saw record-breaking heat and widespread river flow deficits, while intense storms like Storm Boris brought deadly flooding to several countries in the region. It is against this backdrop that we're speaking with Professor Maciej Zalewski, an ecohydrology expert from Polish Academy of Sciences, to better understand the complex interplay between climate change, water systems, and ecosystem resilience in the CEE region. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very glad that we have an opportunity to discuss such a very burning topic.
Rightly so. So let's start with the shift in the CEE region. The 2024 European State of the Climate report highlights an east-west contrast in Europe, with eastern regions experiencing drier and hotter conditions. So what is the long-term prediction about water availability and quality in the region?
First of all, we are coming to the very unstable situation. It means the warming of the biosphere is changing the circulation of oceans, and this affects circulation of the atmosphere. And in Poland, for example, this part of Europe, in the past we had more east-west circulation. Now we have a more south-north. That's why the weather is becoming more variable, and as a fact, we are having more intensive floods and more intensive drought period.
Exactly. So drought on one hand, on the other, Storm Boris in 2024, which caused severe flooding across multiple CEE countries, affecting river networks that were otherwise running dry due to the heat and drought. So from an eco-hydrological perspective, how do such contrasting extremes, drought followed by intense floodings, impact the riverine ecosystems?
In general, every strategy of success, we really need success by adaptation to climate change, has to be built on two elements: elimination of threats and amplification of opportunities. And ecohydrology is a science which, by integration these two disciplines, more profoundly explain the complexity of interplay between man and biosphere, especially water resources, which are recognized as a major factor of the sustainable, secure future. So what should we do? First of all, we have to analyze what was done in the past. We were accelerating water outflow to the sea by straightening the rivers, by unification of the agricultural landscape, and by increasing burnable space in the city. So now, when the precipitation is sometimes very intensive and sometimes we have big periods of drought, this approach is getting more and more dangerous for our, let's say, water resources and our sustainable future. That's why we have to reverse the process, and we have to start to retain the water starting from the catchment, from the soils, from the agricultural landscape, because agricultural landscape is very now tending to be very open. Industrial agriculture is just opening big empty space, eliminating the tree rows, land water ecotones, and this is playing the game as a hairdryer. We accelerate wind speed, and very fast we're losing this water which come to the agricultural landscape.
Okay, Professor, so how to retain the water in agricultural areas? How to do it?
Or just we have to increase the complexity of this landscape because according to research done by my colleagues from Poznan, even every 400 meters, the tree row is significantly reducing the wind speed. And this in turn extend the moisture in the soil period of which is reducing the drought period by 2 weeks. And this in turn increase the crop up to the 30%. So if the farmer will be devoting 5% of the land, it can just get much more stable water resources in the soil and much better profit from his, let's say, efforts.
All right. Hydrologists often refer to Poland as European Egypt in terms of deep water resources. What is the current state of the drought in Poland? How severe is the situation and how has it evolved during recent years?
No, in general, we can say that the central part of Poland, the region of Poznań, Łódź, Mazovia, they are more, let's say, exposed to the drought. Now, one of the reasons is that we have a small forest cover, and forests are very well stabilizing hydrological cycle, but not only stabilizing heat budget. So, because forests contain big amount of water in the biomass, that's why also changing the kind of mesal circulation and generating better precipitation in given regions than open field. The structure of the landscape is getting critical and still intensive cutting forests, which appeared last years, that was very negative because such forest, which is regenerating, is not fully playing the function of stabilizing the climate. It needs 40 years to recover to the state when it's really some very positive effect on the regional climates. So first of all, we have to take care about forest and very carefully use these resources. Second, we have to increase complexity of agricultural landscape. Third, we have to change water management in the city because in the past, we were trying to send storm water from the city so fast as possible outside of the city. And now we have to convert city into the sponge. It means we have to infiltrate so much water from the precipitation in area of the city to recharge groundwater resources under the city. So every green area should be infiltration chamber, should be placed when water which is coming from the roofs, from roads, is coming and recharging groundwater. In this moment, we can putting together many type of activities, we can really mitigate the effect of climate change to a certain extent.
To a certain extent, but apparently April is this year in Poland was the hottest on record. So why is it getting so hot? And is it a permanent trend?
Unfortunately, I'm afraid it can be permanent. As I mentioned on the beginning, because the change of circulation appear in this part of the world, and this somehow can be connected with weakening of the Gulf Stream from Mexican Bay, because our German colleagues demonstrate that the Gulf Stream, which is warming up Europe, and also increase higher evaporation of Atlantic, which is supplying by rain our Central Europe, unfortunately is getting weaker. And they evaluate that even 18% by comparison with 50 years ago. So the weaker Gulf Stream is somehow influencing the process of circulation over the Europe, and one of the reasons of change of the pattern of the temperatures and precipitation.
All right. I would like to ask you also about a comment on the recent fire in Biebrza area, National Park in Podlasie. We know that it has experienced terrible fire. Do you think it's linked to drought, or could that somehow happen again?
Unfortunately, the lack of water, very long period of droughts, creating situation of big vulnerability to the fire. And we have to be more and more careful, especially in such area where appear herbaceous plants like in Biebrzα region, but also our forests are very vulnerable, especially pinewood forest to drought. And that's why certain restrictions which are just suggested by the forest managers has to be considered very seriously.
Professor, let me now turn to the renewable sources of energy. The report shows a record high share of renewable electricity production in Europe, but the weather extreme phenomena influence its solar and hydro potential. So in the context of Central and Eastern European countries and its unique climate vulnerabilities, where do you see the most strategic opportunities for investment in energy infrastructure?
I think the secure future is dependent on just water and energy, and that's why renewable energy extremely important, and this evolution from the fossil fuel to the renewable energy will be fundamental, not only for, let's say, our comfort, but first of all, for, let's say, sustainable use of natural resources and reduce of emission and reduce the climate change. There's some very complex system, and we can say that now relation with man and biosphere is somehow can be expressed like in physics quantum entanglement. Two elements are very dynamic and they are changing, and we need really advanced science, integrative science, which is putting together this different discipline to really propose the solution, which will be not only conserving the nature, but enhancing sustainability potential. And this sustainability potential contains four elements, which in parallel has to be improved. Water, bioproductivity, biodiversity, services for society, and resilience. This four element has to be like mantra in every manager who is planning, who is preparing foresight, and who is, let's say, trying to achieve sustainable future as we want.
Maciej Zalewski, professor at the European Academy of Sciences. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor. Apparently, building a more climate resilient energy system, is one of the most challenging necessities for the future to come. Thank you so much, Professor, once again.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Stay tuned to TVP World for more interesting topics.